to think about, going back, that I was sat in a room for 7 days while somebody was telling me about the group. Now, I just said that I was there because I wanted the truth. There's other people that get into all sorts of different groups, different levels of groups, for all sorts of different reasons. So you can imagine that you get a radicalized theology such as Islam, you fuse it together with politics, and then you put a mixture of weapons. It's a combustible hand, that you've been given, and you have to protect against. Once I got out of the deprogramming, and after I went through a halfway house for 2.5 years, and went back home, and then I got a call in January of 1980. I'm not going to say. I give my age away anyway. That they were going to they were going to deprogram someone, and they wanted to know if I wanted to come along as the ex-member, which I did, and that I continued to do with a number of different people through my several years, and really I do it again in some places. And if you need some information about what I can do for you, or what I need to say, or whatever, you can find this on my Facebook page under Reign of Fire Evangelical Ministries. You can find the information there. Anyway, getting back to the fact that terrorists don't care. If they did care, then you would have something that you could work with them on. To deprogram someone, you have to find that out. For me, it was the truth. For a terrorist, yeah, maybe it's the 72 virgins that they're going to meet when they get blown up, right? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's because they're angry because their families were killed, or maybe they were displaced. Maybe it's because there's such a high unemployment rate. Maybe it's because the government is oppressive and there needs to be a change. There's a lot of different reasons to become a terrorist. The thing is what the person's there for. You have to find out if that's what needs to be taken out of the equation in order for you to start speaking to them. Unfortunately, in order for you to be a true Muslim, and I'm sure that there's a number of people that are going to be out there and saying, well, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Sorry, but I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. The only way to be a true Muslim is to follow to the letter the teachings of Muhammad. Now, there's such a thing as the caliphates who do their own caliphate, which is an interpretation of what the Quran says or states. Well, when you're looking at, let's say, let's talk about the Gospels and talking about Jesus. And what Jesus says to Peter and to the disciples, okay, if someone slaps you on the left cheek, turn your right. If they want to take your coat, take your shirt too, give them your shirt. If they want you to walk 1 mile, walk with them too. So if you want to be an ultra fundamentalist with Christianity and what what Jesus taught and what Paul endeavored to walk out, guess what? You're going to have to love everybody. You're going to have to give your life for everybody. You're going to be the one that assists other people, not by destroying them, but by loving them into the kingdom of God. Whereas a terrorist wants to blow you into either the kingdom or to hell, whichever way you're believing. And they have no compunctions about destroying anybody or anything in their path in order to bring, I guess, the perfect Muslim world into being. And they know that that's not going to happen. See, this is the point. They know it's not going to happen. And that's something also to consider. So, can you deprogram a terrorist? Well, let's look at a couple of things. What do they actually believe? What is their motive? Or what are their motives that they're doing what they say they want to do, that they're blowing people up, that they're shooting people, that they're going on these rampages? What is their motive? What's their end game? What do they want to see their end game as? Maybe for some, they believe it's the truth, and they believe that Allah's going to take everybody that's a true believer up, and everybody else, well, you're going to be destroyed. There's not much I can say about that, but you have to believe that the Quran is infallible. If you believe that the Quran is infallible, then there's not much you're going to do. Now, if you are like a moderate or maybe a one prayer a day Muslim, or maybe you're just Islam is something you identify with, it was a cultural thing that you grew up with, and maybe you don't really believe much at all, and you just go through the records. You just go through the motions of being a Muslim. Well, I mean, there's Christians like that, there's Hindus like that, there are all sorts of religions like that. So that's what we might call a cultural thing, or environmental. The only way you're going to exist is by doing that. Some people, it's because they're terrorists because they're kind of forced into it. It's kind of like, well, I have your sons and your daughters and your wives, and if you don't do this, we'll just kill them all. So you have to, protection of the family is one of the reasons why somebody would blow themselves up and other people as well. Of course, martyrdom is the whole deal. Their lives are, pretty much insignificant until they end up blowing somebody else up. And I can't say enough about that, because the last memory that they have, the terrorist has, is of themselves being blown up. They actually don't even get to see the terror in people's eyes, unless they're using a truck or something. But just blowing themselves up, they don't see anything other than hell. I'm sorry, it's hell, because one of the things that we need to be apprised of is that each and every person will have their own motive, and therefore you cannot treat people like herds of cattle. You can't say all terrorists are going to respond the same. So, can terrorists be deprogrammed? I keep on asking that question, and I keep on going back to the answer is, what is their motive? If their motive is to be a martyr, what you're going to have to do is bring in other information. Now, the Thought Reform, the Psychology of Totalism, an awesome book, and would be educating them a lot about a lot of different methods that's being used to indoctrinate and brainwash them. Like I say, it's a good thing, but it doesn't get to the underlying need, which is a philosophy change. And see, that's allowed for the Christian. That's allowed when you're talking to a Muslim. Why? Ouch, I'll tell you why. Because they are using the Bible. They're using the Bible in order to spread their gospel. You can say to a Muslim, oh, do you believe in Jesus? They say, yeah, he's a great prophet. So with that statement, with that very statement, a believer can go to that person and say, okay, so, Mr. Muslim, you say that you believe that Jesus is a prophet. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. And you can go into the book of Deuteronomy. In a couple of different places it talks about a prophet and what the prophet is. And the to identify a prophet is that he must, or they must, never lie. They cannot, their prophecies cannot be broken. They have to come to pass. They absolutely have to come to pass. So, what did the prophet Jesus say? That he was the way, the truth, and the life. No one would get to the Father but by him. That God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes on him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Jesus said that. Jesus said, I am that I am. Yeah, he said a lot of things that fly in the face of the Quran and what it says. See, if we take the fundamentalist doctrine of the Muslim, what you get is destruction. And that's the only thing, because that's the way that you're supposed to bring people to. It's like, do you believe in Allah? Do you believe in Muhammad? Yes. Okay. No. Bang. There's the only conversion is, yeah, do you believe this? And of course, there are a lot of, what do I want to say? Appealing towards a person's nature, appealing towards a person's ideology, not so much ideology, but their bent, what they're thinking, what that person needs. Radicalization is basically, hey, we're victims, we want to be the victors, we want to destroy people because then we'll be the best people in the world and we'll be able to take care of everybody else that's in the world. We'll destroy them or we'll convert them. Sum and substance, that's a Muslim's ideology. And the reason for that is Muhammad, when he came up with all this stuff, he started to appeasing to the Christians and the Jews because he wanted them to be solidified underneath him. However, when that started happening, then he started turning against them and starting to destroy them to solidify his power, and called himself a great prophet, so people listened to him.